Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are back with Shaq, Wukong. So excited to have our energy healer here today and so much more. Welcome.
Woohoo! What's up, Jill? Great to see you.
Great to have you here. Loving your background. For those just on the radio portion on the Zoomcast, even better. He's got this awesome, like psychedelic. My favorite colors, like a teal and brown, happen behind you, and you're matching. I love it. I love it. You're the owner at God Hand Reiki and Acupressure. And again, we want to remind everyone, God Hand Reiki and Acupressure.com is the website, and we want to welcome you. Please introduce yourself to our listeners today.
Hello, everybody. I'm Shaq Wukong, aka the God Hand, the sole proprietor of God Hand Reiki and Acupressure, here at your service. Yeah. Nice to see you.
Well, excited to have you here. For those that may not know a little bit about Reiki, let's talk about this energy healing modality that you use.
For sure, for sure. What would you like to know?
Well, first of all, for those new listeners today, it's always important that we establish the basics of Reiki and what it could do, if you don't mind. Some people say energy healing. What is it? So give us an overview of Reiki itself, and then we'll continue.
For sure. All right. So Reiki, spelled Reiki, is a hands-on holistic healing practice that originated in Japan. However, its roots can be traced back to ancient times. Basically, it's a traditional form of electromagnetic therapy that uses the electromagnetic energy generated by our hearts and our brains to project healing energy through the hands via intention and feeling. And this isn't as crazy as it sounds. Our brains actually generate an electric current. If you look at any scan of a brain, you'll see that our neurons actually use electricity to communicate with each other and to pass electric impulses. And our hearts, if you take a look at our hearts, you will see that they actually have a magnetic charge. And this is evidence as in the pumping of blood. The blood goes away, it's repelled, and then it's attracted back to the heart like a magnet. And it goes like this in what is called a toroidal fashion, which is how the energy of the universe moves. So basically, that's what universal energy is. Whenever you Google Reiki, that's what you'll see is a lot of talk about universal energy, but it's never usually explained too good. But that's what I'm here to try and do for you.
Perfect. And let's talk more in depth, if we can, about the process. And you mentioned the ki and Reiki, right? That's the energy that circulates within. Okay, perfect. And you say the heart and brain. I mean, they generate so much energy, right? There's how many different chakras in our body that you're working with?
Well, there are about 7 main ones, which have a front and back. So, yeah, it's about 7. And that's what I work with. Which, to explain further about a chakra is not what you see on Google either, or in YouTube videos. Like, you might see a floating ball that's a certain color, or something like that. While there are colors that correspond to the chakras, ultimately a chakra in Sanskrit, it means wheel, and that's basically how our minds work in a circular fashion. You have these thought processes that run in loops. So a chakra is basically a different part of your personality or a different state of mind that you can hop into to operate and live your life from. If that makes any sense. And so there's about 7 of them.
Awesome. And I mean, there's so much to hear your notes. I don't know where you wanted to go next. I mean, did you want to talk more about the type of things you're working on to help people with relief of Reiki? What other things could people benefit from? And then I know we have to go into acupressure too. So I'll let you take the wheel here, the reins.
Well, yeah, what I do is help people to clear out and balance their chakras. So say if somebody has anxiety or they experience, panic or something like that, that means that they have an overactive chakra. That's usually their brow chakra, which has to do with basically your imagination. It's linked to your prefrontal cortex, which
Okay.
it's the part of the brain that you use to imagine stuff or to think. And so if a person thinks too much, you know what I mean, and they're projecting too much into the future about potential problems or you know stuff that they could have anxiety about, or they're pulling from stuff in the past that had bothered them, and they're spending too much time, you know, running these thought patterns over and over again. I use Reiki to help clear and balance that out. Basically, they're able to come to me and just take their mind off of that and get into a place of healing, because ultimately health is our natural state of being. You know what I mean? Disease is unnatural, you know? And like honestly, there's only like a small percentage of people are born with actual like crazy illnesses. Most illnesses that people have are what they call psychosomatic, which means that it's brought on about by it's brought on by stress. You know what I mean? And so just like you can stress yourself into the hospital using your thoughts,
True. You're right.
you know, you can also use your thoughts to return to your natural state of being, which is health. You know what I mean? So you can heal and kill with your thoughts, so to speak.
Interesting.
So I help people to stop harming themselves with their thought process.
Yeah, and mindset, right? It's all about mindset. They keep saying the more, also with mindset, the positivity aspect of attracting more manifestation with the mind. Is that true?
Yeah, that can be said, you know what I mean? And I kind of want to stray as far away from the woo like places that I can, because there's actually, you know, it's unfortunate that a lot of people may attribute Reiki or, you know, manifestation to, like, you know, you're talking about some kind of you know, imaginary thing, but the power of imagination is extremely powerful. In fact, our entire world was created by someone's imagination.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, but back to the power of the mind and stuff like that, I actually would like to go over the principles of Reiki, because that's a big part of the healing, because ultimately Reiki is like a lifestyle, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Because, you know, because like I said, health is our natural state of being. You know what I mean? Like a baby isn't born stressing out over like what
True.
toy it doesn't have, or like that it just pooped its diaper. Like you know, like we naturally don't think about stuff like that when we're in a healthy state of being. So the 5 principles of Reiki are reminders that we use to keep us in a natural, healthy flow state. So if you don't mind, I kind of just want to go over them.
Please.
So
Thank you.
this is kind of an incantation for everybody who's viewing to enjoy as well. This is somewhat like a blessing, but
Great.
Kyorakewa ikaruna. Excuse me for my laughing. Kyorakewa ikaruna. Shenpasuna. Kanshashite. Gyo hagime. Hito ni shinsetsu ni. Loose translation from Japanese to English. Just for today. Put a smile on. Don't take things so seriously. Be grateful. Find something to be grateful for. Do what you can manage to do and realize that that will be just enough. And practice kindness and forgiveness with yourself, so you can then give that same kindness and forgiveness to others. Now, like I said, that was a loose translation. I translated it in a way that would have our mind more focused on the positive, because the quantum field doesn't know the difference between or it doesn't know the difference between a negative, like if you say don't do blah blah, it doesn't know that. It only focuses on what you told it, you know, like not to do. So if you say don't stress out, quantumly it's going to focus on the stress, and you're going to get more stress by saying that. So back to the point here, that we want to focus on those 5, you know, principles: to put a smile on, it's basically to not be angry, right? To avoid anger as much as possible, because being in that kind of frequency is how you kind of grind your gears and get yourself sick. You know what I mean? Like when someone says blah blah, or that a specific person or circumstance is making them sick, as in it's a reference to their getting angry. It's an actual manifestation, so we have to be careful. We also have to remember not to worry, right? And that's actually, it should be to remember everything's going to be okay, is what I should say instead, because what you focus on grows, right? And so it's been proven that race car drivers, that they're like trained to actually look in the direction of where they want to go if they spin out of control. Because where you look and place your eyes is where you're going to end up going towards. Like we talked about, that heart has that magnetic charge to it. So if they're spinning out of control, they should keep their eyes where they want to go. And so that's why you don't worry, don't focus on what the problem is, because that's not going to get rid of the problem. You want to focus on the solution to the problem. So we're not going to worry. We're going to practice gratitude, because gratitude is the most powerful emotion for receiving blessings in our life, to receiving good. You know how they say in Spanish, gracias, right? Basically sounds like gratitude, right? To be grateful. And so when we are grateful, we really open ourselves up energetically and spiritually for good things to happen. After that, we want to do what we can manage to do, and not beat ourselves up for any shortcomings or whatever, because ultimately it's all part of the divine plan. You know what I mean? So to do what you can manage and be proud of that, because just keep on trying, right? And then to practice kindness and forgiveness with ourselves, so we can then give that to others, because we really create from the inside out. You know what I mean? And the world is not as the world is not as it is. The world is as you are. And so if you take a look at the world and you think everyone in it's a big jerk, well, probably it's probably because you're a big jerk.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
A self-reflection.
Exactly. People do that all the time. They project and reflect all the time, and they may be unconscious to their own doings. And so just having those 5 principles in mind is, and practicing them is a good way to keep our energy good and keep us out of the doctor's office. You know how they say an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Well,
it does.
A Reiki principle a day does the same thing.
So true. Oh, well, that's good to know. Let's remind everyone, Shaq, how we can reach out to you. Tell us all of your contact information.
Yes, you can find me on my website, Reiki and Acupressure.com. But you can also look up the same thing on Instagram, Godhand_Reiki and Acupressure. On Instagram, you can find me on YouTube at Wukong's World. One word, WUKONG. S and then world. I have an excellent explanation of Reiki on there. It's a 2-piece. It's 1 and 2 parts, right? The first one is titled it's Reiki Explained, and then it's Mental Universe. And that really goes into the depth about how we really create from the inside out, and that our minds are the ultimate power in everything, including healing. Because like I said, health is your natural state. You know what I mean? And that the body is always working towards restoration, because it naturally gets worn down by the events of life, so to speak. And so check out my Reiki explanation. It'll blow you away.
All right. Awesome.
Now, it kind of sounds like we're wrapping up the interview.
No, we're not.
Yeah, nervous there, Jill.
I know. I'm just like, this is good stuff. But it's usually like a halfway between me. You got to remind everyone who we're talking to. People tune in at different times. Got to remind them of your website, Shaq, Wukong, and on social media. And maybe we have so much more to talk about Reiki, and then also acupressure, where you do that as well.
Yeah.
And for those people out there, maybe tell us a little bit about what acupressure is to start.
Acupressure equates to something like a deep tissue, massage, but ultimately it's similar to Reiki in that it's utilizing specific pressure points on the body in the body's energetic, system, to cause a certain effect. And
Mm-hmm.
so the kind of acupressure that I practice specifically is called muscle tendon change qigong.
Okay.
And the qi is the Chinese version of qi, which is just in reference to energy. And gong just means work. And so ultimately what I can do is I can actually do something like a dry, like it's like a dry surgery, in that I can actually change the structure of your muscles and your tendons. And
Okay.
I can impact
Huh.
or influence with my hands the way the blood flows in those areas, and where the blood flows, chi goes.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, the acupressure is super duper 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 powerful. The only thing is that unlike the Reiki is I can't send that over a distance. You have to actually come and see me to get that done. But the Reiki I can do from a distance, no matter where you are. I can send it to you, and it's just as powerful
Wow.
as if it was in person.
And by the way, where are you located specifically, Shaq?
I'm in Boston, Massachusetts.
Perfect. But working with people all over the world with your services?
All over the world, baby.
I love it.
Get at me.
And if someone has any questions for you, they're able to reach out. Do you do an initial consult with someone?
Yes, I do. My first consultation is free. It's 90 minutes where
Wow.
we do a chakra assessment. I think I have the best test around for assessing someone's chakras.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives me a good idea of where you're at energetically. And then for the next hour, I treat you. And then from there I say, nice to meet you, and I'll see you again. but yeah, my first session is free. And that can be done remotely, aka distance, or in person. Um, so yeah, the first interaction with me is free. So
Okay.
you can't lose anything by going onto my website and clicking that option. It's the first option on there is the complimentary consultation.
Got it. So acupressure doesn't use needles, right? Because that can scare
No,
people.
right,
When you say
right, right.
acupuncture, they say acupressure,
Thank
acupuncture. Just yeah.
thank you for clarifying, because I kind of didn't talk about that. But yeah, I don't use any needles. I don't poke you. It's all pressure points. I use my hands to do what I do.
Well, let me find out more about you. How did you get into this field? Tell me more about yourself, Shaq, where you grew up and how you discovered these modalities.
Well, yeah, I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. I've always been interested in sort of esoteric things, or basically energy.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since I was a kid. My dad introduced me to Bruce Lee and Dragon Ball Z when I was young, and I became obsessed with the concept of being able to have an impact on on something without touching. Like,
Okay.
I was always really fascinated by that idea, and I really got into it through the mode, I guess, of fantasy. But
Mm-hmm.
at some point, my brother introduced me to Tai Chi, and a specific meditation technique where you sat like this, you focus on your breathing, and eventually you can feel
Mm-hmm.
your basically your aura, but it's basically your body heat, and you
Okay.
can feel it if you practice enough. Eventually, you can feel your aura from even further away. And what his instructor told him was that eventually you can use your chi to do stuff in the world. And so once I heard that, I was like, man, I want to be able to do that. I
Mm-hmm.
basically wanted powers. And I feel like a lot of people get into spiritual practices to either open up their third eye or to do some kind of mystical thing. But what I've come across, or rather discovered on my journey, is that if it don't make sense, it doesn't exist.
Wow.
and that in my spiritual practices, like basically if you can't explain it to a young child, then then it's not real. But everything that I practice, I've come to realize just how effective it is. So like I said, I got into Tai Chi around the age of 7 or 8 or 6. I was real young. Practiced that up until, well, I still practice it, but I found a teacher, Dr. Yang Jwingming of the YMAA, based out of Roslindale in Massachusetts. He's the GOAT. I learned I learned acupressure from him and muscle tendon change, qigong. And then in college, I was introduced to I was introduced to, what you call it, sound healing. I had a treatment done on me, which kind of it had an impact on me, and then I learned about Reiki. But after college, I found a teacher, and she was the best. She was taught by the student of one of the founders, like her first students, excuse me. And so the Reiki that I learned is straight from the source. There's none of the weird waving feathers or burning sage for no reason that you might see today. Because there's lots of different schools of Reiki, where I personally kind of wish that there was more regulation around it. Because truth be told, you've got some whack jobs out here.
Good funny of them. Yep.
And they make the rest of us look bad. And so I practice the real like Reiki, Jikidan Reiki straight from Japan, from the horse's mouth. And we just get straight to the point of effective healing. But anyway, yeah, I found a couple of teachers, and they showed me how to do this, and then I perfected it my way. And so it's really a thing that, like, you have to experience it to really get the full impact. Like, holy smokes, like, it's some powerful stuff.
Well, you are powerful stuff. Let's remind everyone, Shaq, Wukong, how we can reach out to you.
You can find me on my website at godhandreiki.acupressure.com. Book a free consultation on there, which is 90 minutes, has a chakra assessment on there for you, and a 60-minute treatment. You can find me on Instagram at godhand_Reiki and acupressure. You can also find me on Instagram at BLK_GKU Black Goku. You can also find me on YouTube at Wukong's World, WUKONGS World, WORLD. I know how to spell.
You got it. You got it.
But you guys can Google Reiki Explained, right? Yeah. Let me go ahead and make sure, because I really think that I give the best explanation of Reiki ever, where it's not
in a nutshell, as you say. In a nutshell.
Right. In a nutshell, with the all the science in back of it too.
Yeah.
And you can check that out.
Good.
Reiki Explained, mental universe.
Wow. Well, we are excited to have you here and to talk to us today. And again, you offer that amazing initial. Oh, let me see. Oh, cool.
The glare.
I see it there. There it is. That's you.
That's me, but it's going to be backwards for everyone who's watching. But when you see the thumbnail initially, you're going to see this kid with cake on his face. Okay? And I talk about the power of our thoughts and our feelings, that the universe is mentally constructed. And that I love the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, he goes into this beautifully about how our brains are actually like created by our mind, and that our environment, like our brains are a reflection of our environment. And you can see that through brain scans as we learn stuff and new connections are made like that. The brain changes physically when you change your mind, when you change your thoughts and you change how you feel. And so and then the brain runs the show in the body, right? So
Wow, yeah.
So when you're able to impact how you think and stuff like that, then you're able to have a big impact, not just on your body, but also your world, because your personality creates your personal reality. Just like we said earlier, the world is not as it is how you are.
Beautifully said.
You know what I mean?
I got it. Shaq, pleasure having you here for joining us again. Thank you so much. And again, reach out for that initial consult, which is kind of you. You said 90 minutes?
90 minutes, baby. Free.
Never heard of that. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, thank you, Shaq.
What are we done? We can't be done, Jill.
We are done. It's been 27 minutes. Yes.
27
and a commercial.
minutes.
In closing today, what did you want to leave?
What do I want to leave the people with? Well, a thing that I like to say is that, you know, the good in this world is overlooked and the bad is overemphasized, and that basically God goes ignored in this realm. You know, I'm not called the God hand for no reason. That they basically that there's tons of suffering all around us. And so it's our duty and responsibility to be the best that we can, not just for ourselves, but for others, so that we may serve, because ultimately we serve with our hands. And so when we bring the best out of ourselves, that's how we're able to bring heaven down here on earth. And that we do everything with our hands, right? That our hands are tools that we use of service. And so me saying this, that basically we look for God in each other, right? Like if if something's not perfect, then we have some comments about it, right? But if it's perfect, we're kind of like, man, right? So basically we're in search of God, whether you believe in God or not, right? Even the atheist is a big believer in God because they don't believe in sky God, right? Because that's not the right image. But anyway, us bringing out the best of ourselves is how we're able to not only be in a better position, position to serve, but it's also to help make the world a better place. And so I'm here as the hand of God to help.
God Hand Reiki. It's God Hand Reiki Acupressure.com.
Right, to help to bring the best out of people. You know what I mean? To help you bring the best out of yourself. You know what I mean? With Reiki and acupressure.
Well, thank you again for being here, Shaq, and pleasure having you. Thanks for informing all of us, and thanks again for that initial consult. Guys, reach out to him, check him out. Shaq Wukong, have a great day. Thank you so much.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.